Welcome back to Sketchy Farm. If you've indulged in our other videos in this heart failure series, you'll know that we went to prom with DJ Foxglove, where we looked at the role of digoxin in heart failure, before venturing to April Showers Casino, where we bet on ACE inhibitors and ARBs to improve survival in heart failure. Well, get excited, because we're taking our journey to Entresto's Magic Show, set in fabulous Las Vegas. Here, we'll reveal Sacubitril-Valsartan, used for systolic heart failure, as well as Milrinone, Nesiritide, and Ivabradine. So, don't be shy. Step right up to Entresto's show of tricks and, velvet sacks. Should probably work on branding. Introducing Mr. Entresto, magician extraordinaire with his velvet sack of tricks and probably some stolen buffet lunch. We've all done it. From the velvet sack hangs a floppy heart balloon, our symbol for heart failure. In addition, Entresto's velvet sack should help you remember that Entresto is a combination of sacubitril and valsartan. Remember our guardian angel? Well, she's back in this sketch as Entresto's assistant, and she also represents improved survival. Sacubitril-Valsartan reduces the risk of cardiovascular death in systolic heart failure, unlike digoxin. Before we reveal Entresto's magic tricks, let's first look at the natriuretic peptide system and its role in systolic heart failure. Natriuretic peptides are peptide hormones that are synthesized by the heart, brain, and other organs. Take a look outside, because we're so high up we can see the BNP blimp pulling along an ANP flag. These represent atrial natriuretic peptide, or ANP, and brain natriuretic peptide, or BNP. The release of these peptides by the heart is stimulated by atrial and ventricular distension, as well as by neurohumoral stimuli, usually in response to heart failure. I bet the view from up there is even better. Next time. Okay, so the natriuretic peptide system counterregulates the detrimental effects of the upregulation of RAS that occurs in systolic heart failure by producing vasodilation and natriuresis, that is the excretion of sodium via urine. Our broken renin rain umbrella against the window should help you remember this. For a more detailed review of RAS, check out our ACE inhibitor ARB sketch that takes place at April Showers Casino, right next door. Sodium and fluid retention, vasoconstriction caused by activation of RAS and the sympathetic nervous system, as well as the action of vasopressin, lead to increased ventricular preload and afterload and elevated wall stress, something that we don't want in a failing heart. This increased preload and afterload stimulates the production of prepro-B-type natriuretic peptide, which is cleaved to active BNP and N-terminal proBNP, NT-proBNP. This active BNP then promotes natriuresis and vasodilation, which are outcomes beneficial in systolic heart failure. What about in the atria? Atrial stretch leads to the production of preproatrial or A-type natriuretic peptide and ultimately atrial natriuretic peptide, ANP, which has similar physiologic properties to BNP. So, all this talk about natriuretic peptides, but what is neprilysin? Our magical Nepalese lynx represents neprilysin, a neutral endopeptidase, or NEP, involved in the degradation of these vasoactive natriuretic peptides. The lynx is fixated on bringing down that BNP blimp and ANP flag, typical of neprilysin. If you recall from the ACE inhibitor ARB sketch, where we visited April Showers Casino, we discussed the role of bradykinin in hypertension and heart failure management. You'd remember that bradykinin also has vasodilatory properties. Neprilysin also metabolizes bradykinin. Look how frightened that girl with braids is of the Nepalese lynx. Someone control that beast! Oh, that was quick. But I mean, really, a wild lynx seems like something you'd need a license for. Anyway, by blocking neprilysin with sacubitril, the metabolism of these vasoactive peptides is hindered, and hence their concentrations increase, which in turn leads to increased vasodilation, and subsequently reduced preload and afterload, and increased natriuresis. We've symbolized that by giving Entresto some dilated red sleeves and blue pants. What about Valsartan? Valsartan is an angiotensin receptor blocker. Remember our floppy suspenders guy from April Showers Casino? He represents angiotensin 2. Someone has blocked his seat, meaning he can't sit down for the show. Should have called squatters, my good man. Before we move on, did you know sacubitril is actually a prodrug? Inactive in its own right, but when deethylated by esterases, it's converted to its active form, sacubitrillate. Sacubitrillate is technically the neprilysin inhibitor in this case, but cadabra, right? Entresto keeps most of his tricks hidden away in his banana-filled magic case. Why bananas? Well, bananas are our recurring symbol for potassium. This should help remind you that sacubitril-valsartan can increase the risk of hyperkalemia. When using this combination, potassium supplements should be avoided unless required, and baseline and regular potassium levels should be taken. Whoa, sit down, dude, looking a little dizzy. Sacubitril-valsartan can lead to drops in blood pressure, which in turn may result in dizziness and fainting, especially if one stands up too quickly, like that audience member who's about to faint. Check blood pressure at baseline and monitor regularly when beginning treatment, or if the dose is changed, particularly if it's escalated. You are in for a surprise, because tonight, Entresto's showing off one of his most prized possessions, his antique, one-of-a-kind cracked glass kidney? Sacubitril-valsartan can increase the risk of renal impairment, and in some cases renal failure, symbolized by that definitely not from Target cracked kidney sculpture. Check renal function at initiation of treatment, and monitor serum creatinine regularly. A lower starting dose may be required in people with reduced renal function, and if renal function declines significantly, cessation may be necessary. See that girl with a swollen lip through the glass door in April Showers Casino? Well, sacubitril-valsartan can lead to angioedema, and those puffed-up lips are a key manifestation. If angioedema occurs, sacubitril-valsartan should be ceased permanently. Speaking of, want to use an ACE inhibitor with sacubitril-valsartan? No go. Concomitant use increases the risk of angioedema as well as renal impairment and hyperkalemia. What else is contraindicated? Use in people with a prior history of angioedema from ACE inhibitors or ARBs. That's why we've closed that door to April Showers Casino and locked it tight. Anyone for a quick window wash? Well, it's your lucky day, because someone has left the bucket and squeegee next to this glass door to April Showers Casino. This will help you remember that a washout period is essential when switching to or from ACE inhibitors to reduce the risk of angioedema occurring. 36 hours or 1.5 days, symbolized by the 1.5 suns on the bucket. Let's finish with a quick run through 3 more drugs used in heart failure. Over the wall behind Entresto's show, let's sketch in a few campaign posters for the Magic Society's presidential race. The first one represents Milrinone, as highlighted by our campaigner declaring that Mildred's the one. Milrinone is a phosphodiesterase inhibitor, leading to decreased breakdown of cyclic AMP.
Don't foster disinterest
Highlights inhibition of phosphodiesterase, and increased cyclic AMP is emphasized in the word campaign. As she flexes her knowledge of the magician's constitution, let that muscle remind you of Milrinone's positive inotropic effect. Also, see those big red floppy sleeves? Increased in cyclic AMP also leads to arteriolar dilation, which can help reduce afterload in acute failure, but watch out for hypotension. Let's keep this bipartisan and move on to his rival candidate's poster, which will embody all that is Nesiritide. This agent is also used in acute heart failure. However, it's not a PDE inhibitor. We're back to natriuretic peptides. Nesiritide is a synthetic form of the endogenous peptide BNP. The phrase bump the grump emphasizes BNP's role in increasing cyclic GMP in smooth muscle cells. This leads to venous and arteriolar dilation and causes sodium loss through diuresis. See the water and peanuts, our recurring symbol for sodium? It is an elephant, after all, so we've made his trunk causing some major diuresis as he stomps on those recurring sodium-ridden peanuts. Before we leave Entresto's show, let's check out that poster for a new comedy show with Ivan the Funny. His new show, Disrupt, is premiering next Friday night. I wonder if it'll be any good. No wild lynxes, I hope. Ivan stands for Ivabradine, used in chronic heart failure with reduced ejection fraction. Ivabradine disrupts the funny current, it's actually called that in the SA node. This results in decreased rate of firing and decreased heart rate, but watch out for bradycardia. Think Ivabradine and bradycardia. Just like Ivan, those jokes aren't firing like they used to. So, what did we learn in our visit to Entresto's magic show? We learned that Entresto is the trade name for sacubitril and valsartan, and is indicated for systolic heart failure. Sacubitril is a neprilysin inhibitor and increases endogenous levels of the natriuretic peptides ANP and BNP, which lead to vasodilation and increased sodium excretion via urine in an effort to counter RAS. Watch out, though. Sacubitril-Valsartan can lead to hyperkalemia, renal impairment or failure, as well as hypotension. In serious cases, angioedema can occur. For this reason, co-administration with ACE inhibitors and use in people with a history of angioedema from ARBs or ACE inhibitors is contraindicated. And our other friends, Milrinone and Nesiritide, they're used to treat acute heart failure. Milrinone increases CAMP, which increases cardiac contractility and stimulates arteriolar dilation and decreased afterload. Nesiritide is a synthetic form of BNP, leading to vasodilation and natriuresis. Finally, Ivabradine can be used in heart failure, disrupting the funny current, leading to decreased heart rate. Well, that's enough magic for me today. Gonna make like Entresto and